So once again, we'll start at probably 2 to 3 minutes past the hour. Unfortunately, folks, I did not prepare a song and dance routine for these virtual awards. I know some of you may have watched the Emmys the other day, and that's tradition there. Next year, hopefully, I'll be able to do that in person when we actually do this, all right? So I may ask for some volunteers.
Well, I was just going to say, Sharif, are you just used to customers showing up late and not being on time?
Pretty much. That's how it works.
Or if you're not reuniting the cast of Friends, I'm out.
It's all right. Looks like we got some people here. So I guess I can get going. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today and joining us for the first MIT Mentoring Virtual Awards show. For those of you who I haven't met officially, my name is Sharif Bennett. I am co-chair of MIT, which is an acronym for Minorities in Tech. I am also co-chair of the subcommittee for MIT Mentoring. With me is my co-host, Darva Satcher. Darva, would you like to quickly introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Darva Satcher, the Senior Manager for the Development Group, and I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of such a wonderful program. GitLab is very focused on mentoring this year, and I'm excited about all the awards and all the presentations that are coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darva. And so a quick agenda for what we're going to do, what we're going to attempt to accomplish in the next hour. First, Darva and I are going to give a background and purpose of the MIT mentoring program. Then we're going to get into the actual winners. If you looked at the agenda, you'll notice that there are two sort of separate categories. One is the People's Choice Awards. The other is the Working Group Award recipients. And just to be clear, the People's Choice Awards were voted on by the mentees specifically. So they got the opportunity to vote for each other. And then the separate working group had their own sort of awards, if you would. There are 5 specific categories that we will cover today, which are engineering, finance, marketing, sales, and diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And after the winners within the working group recipients are named, they will then have 5 to 6 minutes to present their awards to the group. Well, not present their awards, excuse me, present their projects. What I'll ask them to do is share their screen and literally go through their presentation and highlight their findings. After that, we're going to go through some of the prizes and awards. Each winner of the working group will receive a specific prize, and then all participants within the program itself will receive another prize themselves. Then we're going to talk about specific epics and issues that were created for this project, as these projects, this is not the end, if you would, of these projects, but really just the beginning of what we're looking to do here. And lastly, we'll have closing remarks by myself and Darva. Any questions there? Okay, if not, then just to give you a quick background. So once again, MIT is an acronym for Minorities in Tech. Our group was founded in November of 2019. In that initial meeting, we established 4 specific pillars that we wanted to address moving forward. Both myself and Darva had a passion for mentoring. Personally, on my end, I'm of the belief that a lot of the issues revolving around diversity and inclusion and retainment of people of color and or women could be solved simply by people in a position of leadership or management mentoring one person that didn't look like them. In part, I'm of this belief because I think mentoring itself opens up a lot of doors and just communication for people to understand what certain folks' goals are and providing a pathway for them ultimately to reach it. So that is one of the reasons why I personally wanted to oversee this particular initiative. Darva, anything you wanted to add there?
I'd just like to say that I think it's a great opportunity to invest in our team members, to develop their skills, to stretch them, to expose them to team members they would not normally be exposed to. So I think it hits on just about every value that we have at GitLab, and also at the same time contributing to GitLab and improving processes, improving the company, improving the product. So there's just nothing but win-wins for this exercise. So I'm really excited. And I want to make sure I give time for the presentation. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the ways that we structured this was when Darva and I sat down and decided, like, wait, how are we going to structure this mentoring program? One of the ideas that Darva actually came across was the idea of having both mentor and mentee have a specific task or goal, right? I've participated in mentoring programs in the past that, well, to be honest, really weren't worth anything. And that's in part because there wasn't a finish line for anyone. There was nothing for us to collectively do together. So one of the things that we figured would differentiate us and really make this a compelling project and something that people would want to invest in was that is if there was a deliverable at the end that both mentor and mentee can look and say, okay, wow, this is something that we did together that at the same time could benefit GitLab as a whole. So what we did was give both mentor and mentee 3 months to create a project of their own and submit it to us, the working group, the other mentees for review. And what we also did was just basically created a survey for all people who wanted to participate and just asked them what areas of the business did they want to gain exposure to. Because this gave us an idea of if people wanted to look at potentially new opportunities or get more deeply involved in their existing role already. So any questions there or comments from Darva?
Yep, you got it.
All right, so from there, let's hop into the good stuff. So the first group of nominees is the engineering group. Look, we're an engineering-based company, so I figured they should be the first group. Now, the nominees within this section and their projects are the first, titled Sharing GitLab's Organizational Practices Outside of GitLab by Clement and Wayne. Second project is Cleaning Up Stale Bugs by Ramya and Christopher. And the last project in this category was Creating a Knowledge Base and Framework for Engineering Managers to Share Ideas by Dennis and Sam Goldstein. And the winner for both the working group as well as the People's Choice Awards are Clement and Wayne. Congratulations, congratulations.
Congratulations, Clement.
So for those of you who haven't yet had a chance to review any of these projects, I've put the link in the Zoom chat here. You can just click that and begin to look at the project if you haven't already. But what I'd love to do right now is for Clement to share his project to the group at hand.
All right, thank you, everyone. I'll just run through my project real quick in the slides and take some questions afterwards. So as Sharif mentioned, my project was about sharing GitLab's organization practices outside of GitLab. Wayne was my mentor, and he's a director of engineering for the threat management, I believe, area. And I'm a front-end manager for the monitor stage. The premise that I had going into the project was that GitLab is a thought leader in remote work, and a lot of companies look at GitLab as an example. It's really cool how today timed was the Coursera course being revealed, so it all kind of ties in together. My thesis was that we should share more about how we run software engineering teams at GitLab to establish our brands as thought leaders in software engineering for remote teams specifically. So this was important to me because this gave me an opportunity to network with other engineering leaders in the organization, allow me to build my brand outside of GitLab as an engineering thought leader, as well as recognize kind of more of the things that I often take for granted being at GitLab. This is important to GitLab because this is a great way to attract engineering talent. It also supports our company brand as the place for DevOps. People want to learn about how we do engineering, learn about GitLab as the tool. It also supports our CEO OKRs for popular next generation product and a great team. So the research methodology, kind of the process that I went through, is kind of broken down to 3 different parts: ideation, refinement, and implementation. So for ideation, first I kind of collaborated with the content team to kind of get some baseline engagement for similar blog posts talking about kind of how we do things at GitLab. to determine success metric. I then went to the EVPE office hours to kind of get some information on kind of what topics would be great topics to kind of uncover. And then I went through and interviewed different people in the organization, mainly Christopher's reports, as well as Darren Murph, since he's been doing a lot of the remote work conversations outside of GitLab. I then took kind of all this interview notes and kind of distilled it to kind of what the main themes were. So this is kind of a word bank of kind of the words that were consistently used, and kind of went through and used that topics to create a draft in Google Docs, and kind of went through a short review process with Eric and Christopher. The reason I went Google Docs first was just there were a few sentences that I was taking my own approach and wanted to make sure it was reflective of the organization before making the draft public. It's also easier to collaborate in Google Docs for the draft. After that, it was an MR and pinged people in the development staff meeting, as well as all the people I interviewed for feedback to make sure I can polish it as well as I can. And then we published the blog post on GitLab Unfiltered the day after virtual commit. And it actually was well received that the content team actually shifted it over to the main blog as well. So measuring success, we kind of broke it down to session metrics, which is more data-driven area, and then measuring social engagement. So with session metrics, it was really interesting learning more about kind of what success looks like in the blog post world. I talked to Rebecca Dodd, managing editor at GitLab, and she kind of gave me some general metrics of what she sees as successful and average. And I actually updated this chart today. And so you can see kind of, we're doing pretty well, 1,000 views, and was able to get kind of 2 spikes. I think one of the spikes was thanks to Sid for tweeting. And so that's the Sid factor. This is a more outdated screenshot, but something that was really interesting to me was the session time, how long people were spending on the page viewing it. So it was really insightful to see people spending almost 9 minutes reading the article. And social engagement wise, here's some screenshots, kind of different people in the team, as well as some people outside the company sharing about this blog post. Was pretty well received. Discoveries wise, what I learned through this process is that there's a lot of wide breadth of content we could publish related to how we do software engineering at GitLab. And it's also really refreshing to see just different leaders in the company are willing to make time to chat about these topics. And so my recommendation coming out of this is to encourage everyone to kind of consider writing more content about how we do software engineering at GitLab, as well as encouraging other managers or senior ICs to write these articles, because it's a great way to establish your brand as well as building a stronger network within the company. And with that, I just want to thank everyone that kind of helped me through this process and helped make this blog post possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. So my first question, Clement, I know GitLab, we're a company that prides itself on transparency, right? And I think that's a lot of what your project is really about, is sort of facilitating that transparency. Do you see any drawbacks in us being so transparent? And if so, what might they be?
Specifically to engineering or just in general?
Specific to engineering practices. And
I think that
in here too.
I think that some of the things that we do may not always be well received. I think that there are always going to be trade-offs that we're making. Sometimes we can't explain outside of the company. So I think that it could draw more scrutiny, but I think that the benefits outweigh the drawbacks for sure.
Yeah, what I'd say is we talk a lot about metrics, to add to what Clement said, and I think that's a good thing. You can't tell the full story with just the metrics. You have to have the context, and that takes a lot longer to read and understand. And in terms of transparency, we try to make sure we communicate both. Sometimes only one side gets the attention versus both of them, and then the story, the full context is not well understood. So we're careful to do that in this blog, and in general, I think that would help.
Nice, nice. In terms of the pairing of the two of you, right, working as a team, what did you guys get out of this? both mentor and mentee?
For me, I hadn't met or had much conversation with Wayne prior, so this is really cool to build that relationship. And yeah, I haven't been at GitLab for a while. I kind of have a good network, but getting to know more people is always a pleasure and a joy. So it was nice to be able to kind of pick Wayne's brain and get to know another person in the company.
And vice versa, I learned just as much from Clement as he learned from me. Just what was on his mind, what he was thinking, what he was concerned about, what he was really happy about, etc. It was really, really insightful, and I learned a lot too.
Nice, nice. And for the winning team, any feedback in terms of how we can iterate moving forward with this project? Anything you'd recommend? Any sort of roadblocks you guys had? Flawless execution, beautiful. That's what I love to hear.
I think some of the stuff could be a little bit clearer. Like I think I struggled a little bit getting to the presentation part, or kind of like what the outcomes was, or kind of what conversation should look like when we met up on a weekly basis leading up to it. But I think as we got closer to the end, it kind of got more clarity.
Agreed.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you guys both. Awesome project. Thank you for your hard work, and thank you for that presentation. The next category is finance. And the nominees are Israel and Craig for improving financial forecasting, as well as Matt and Frederick for should GitLab provide data residency for EU customers. And the winning project in this category is Improving Financial Forecasting by Israel and Craig. Now, unfortunately, Israel is on PTO. Fun fact, he's actually in Brazil practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The man is that dedicated to Jiu-Jitsu, folks, okay? But on his behalf is Craig, who will present their group project. So Craig, if you would.
Yes. Well, I will do my best to bring as much energy as Israel would have brought to this project. Israel and I, as we started our mentee-mentor relationship, Israel articulated that from a career perspective, he was very interested in finance and really wanted to work on his financial modeling skills. So he came up with this idea around how do we improve our sales forecasting, and brought another analytical tool to the game. So we worked together on the following problem statement, and we spent a lot of time in the process discussing why it's really important to have a really strong problem statement and not jump into solutioning right away. We spent a lot of time on the problem statement. And the concept here was, if you have a starting pipeline moves a lot during a quarter, it grows, it goes into the next quarter, you pull stuff in. And based on historical behavior, could we use that, the movement of pipeline to go predict what would happen in the future? So that was the problem statement we'd come up with. So what he did was he went and said, okay, like, is my hypothesis valid? And did some analysis around the different segments to see, okay, based on the different components of pipeline, what happens and does it look predictable? He concluded that large was somewhat predictable, mid-market was the most predictable, and SMB, since there's no pipeline in the beginning of the quarter, because it's so transactional and such short term, that really was non-predictive. So he did some good analysis to draw some conclusions around that. So you can see that in the presentation. And then finally, I told him, okay, go call Q3. And, give me your best forecast. And he did that, and this is an example. So we'll see how well he did. These numbers based on other methods look a little bit high from what we think will come in, but I think he did a really good job applying it. He also back tested the data for prior periods to see what the errors look like, and the errors for large was around 10 to 15%. Mid-market was within 5%. SMB, there was no correlation whatsoever. So he did that as well. And then made some recommendations that this should be one of the many tools we use to predict and forecast. So with that, I'm going to just read a comment from Israel that I asked him to give me something to read because he's not here. So he reflects on the following. I've had informal mentor-mentee relationships before. However, the MIT mentorship program was the first structured mentorship program I participated in. The structure of the program allowed Craig and I to work through a detailed agenda, including the Simply 5 energy profile, career discussions, a financial forecasting project, as well as receiving advice and counsel on how to handle different work situations. Overall, the program was a success, and Craig and I are continuing to meet on a bi-weekly basis for a standing one-on-one. So, and I would just second Israel's sentiment. I got a lot out of the program as well. Learned a ton from Israel. I didn't learn any jiu-jitsu, but I learned a ton from him in terms of how to, what some of the challenges are in our data team, as well as just, how to think through problems. The other thing that was unique about Israel is that we talked about this energy profile, and he had a unique profile that I hadn't seen before. So I got to learn a lot about how to flex my management and mentorship style to work with this profile. So thank you all. I accept on Israel's behalf, and I wish he was here to accept because he'd be thrilled that he won the project.
Nice. Thank you, Craig. Awesome job. Awesome job. Question, as someone who has to do forecasting, right? Forecasting is a little bit more difficult this year given the pandemic and just the realities of the economy. So was there anything you guys did that factored specifically in this particular year regarding forecasting, or this particular quarter, given the nature of this economy?
Great question. We did look at overweighting the data from the prior quarter because it was the COVID quarter. When we were doing this, we used Q1 and Q2 data. So we did try to overweight those quarters. Very hard to do, very limited data set. Obviously, the more data you have and the more that things behave like they have in the past, the easier it is to predict the future. So there was so we did try to take that into account. Again, forecasting is not a perfect art. It's something that it's art as much as science. And I think Israel learned that. And the other thing I think he did really well was he really iterated and structured his forecasting model well. So
nice. And just to follow up on that question, is there anything that you'll take, given how unique forecasting was in this quarter and this year? Is there anything that you take from it moving forward that you say you'd like to implement long-term as a result of what we've seen with COVID-19?
I don't think in terms of the COVID-19 trends, but I do think that the insights that Israel found in the way our pipeline moves based on our sales behavior was really insightful and really useful. And it did look like quarter over quarter, the behavior was similar. So I think there's more to unpack there. So I think I will take that away as I think through additional forecasting tools.
Nice. And any feedback for us in terms of things we might be able to improve on moving forward with mentoring? Anything that you and Israel did that you think other groups should also implement?
So I really like the fact that we had to choose a project together. I think the one thing that I thought went well is we really talked about career goals and what we wanted to get out of the program first, and then we chose the project. I think that worked really well. I felt like maybe an extra 2 weeks would have been, I think we could have gotten one step further in the project. Just 2 more weeks, I think would have been well, because, once we selected and then a little more time, we could have gotten just, I think, one step further. It kind of rushed up upon us, and I found ourselves having too much of ambitious goals, and we kind of had to scope it down to a smaller, minimal step, which is the GitLab way. So, but that was nailed the feedback.
Nice. Thank you. Unless anyone else has a specific question. If not, thank you. We will move on. Great job, Craig. Next, marketing. So, and the nominees are, first are Danielle and Tanuja for creating a sales portal in order to track the customer journey and increase sales efficiency. Next entry is by Stephen and Jackie It is increasing the feedback loop between field sales and product management. Fourth in this category are Leslie and Shakara, how to improve the relationship between field marketing and mid-market sales. And the next entry is how to improve the GitLab handbook by Shane and Carlia. And then lastly, we have Dara and Naritzi with comparing open source strategies versus GitHub and how to improve. And the winner in the marketing category for both the People's Choice Award and the working group is, drum roll, Danielle and Tanuja, creating a sales portal in order to track the customer journey and increase sales efficiencies.
Yay, thank you. I'm getting some slacks too. Let me share my screen. Am I supposed to present or are you supposed to tell me to present? Sorry.
Oh, feel free. The microphone is yours. Feel free.
All right, let me put this in present mode. Okay, so I didn't want to go through my entire presentation because I thought that would be tedious and it would probably take like 45 minutes. So I just kind of narrowed it down to like 5 slides. You're welcome, Sharif, okay? So thank you so much for voting and thank you so much for listening today. The idea was for a sales portal. I'm Tanuja. I am on the field enablement team. I'm primarily responsible for sales onboarding, and I worked with Danielle. Thank you so much, Danielle. You really helped me to kind of put myself in marketing shoes as I was doing this, but I'd actually argue that my project spans both sales and marketing, so apologies if I took a marketing spot when it should have been sales, but I didn't decide which category it went in, so. So my project kind of started as an intuitive feeling more than anything else. And I know that intuition is you know, like not super popular when we're talking about a C group here. So, you know, I do have, you know, metrics and statistics to back all of this up. It's just in the full presentation. So please take a look when you have a chance. But what this started from was from an intuition. I share a lot of personality traits with a salesperson. So I thought, okay, well, they're just, you know, there's so many different pieces of content. It's all in different places. Like, how do we know where to go? And I can imagine for a salesperson, this is what they feel day to day. They feel like they go to a million different places, and that, you know, the GitLab handbook leads them to Google Drive, and then they go to Google Drive and there's a spreadsheet which leads them to an analyst report or some gated content. They're getting information from Slack and Salesforce and YouTube. So it's just coming from everywhere, and I can imagine how overwhelming and confusing that can be with all the other stuff that they have to handle. So my thought was, can we bring some order to this chaos? And maybe it's not exactly chaos, maybe it's organized chaos. It's just, it's gotta be more consumable for sales, was my thought. And so you can see my, my kind of very rudimentary sketch here of what I think a sales portal should look like. And this was definitely stolen, but you know, my thought was, let's bring everything into a single place. Let's make it easy to search for specific things they're looking for. One of the, as I was doing informational interviews with the various groups, one of the use cases I kind of came across was RFPs and RFIs. So for example, they were, you know, the group I was talking to, they got requests for proposals and RFIs, and they weren't, a lot of times they weren't able to respond to them on time, in time. So like there was money left on the table. There was a deal that was not done, potentially because of that. So how could we improve the process? And when I went into this conversation talking to them about RFPs, I kind of assumed that, okay, they're gonna need a whole separate RFP system, or they're gonna need an RFP resource like a human being. But what they were actually looking for was just a place to put all of their RFP snippets. And right now today, where all of those live is in a Google Drive. And they have to go through several different folders to find what it is that they're looking for. It's not an efficient search. So my thought was, what if we flatten that folder structure? We they would type in RFP, and then they're able to search by the product line. So they could say, okay, I'm interested in security, an RFP snippet on security. I'm interested in presenting to a CIO, and I care about like the financial services industry. I'm presenting to a financial services company. So if we can flatten that folder structure and make it just kind of an Amazon shopping experience type of feel, that would be fantastic, I think, for the sales team. And on top of that, another kind of benefit of having a system like this is to be able to gather star ratings, both in comments or written reviews and star ratings. So that content will kind of float to the top of the most popular. Even if nobody gives anything a star rating, I don't personally do a lot of reviews on Amazon. I don't know how many others don't do reviews, but even if you're not giving things a star rating or a written review, they'll float to the top based on views and downloads. So that's kind of what we're looking for, a very Google-esque type of search, but within our system, within our kind of sales portal here. Another great thing that this system would do is be able to send out, you can send out an email directly from the system and be able to gather insights directly from the prospect or client that you're sending this content to. So let's say you're sending out an analyst report or a slide deck. And as soon as the prospect opens that slide deck, you'll get an email saying, hey, this person opened it at 5:42 p.m. Then you can see that they spent 5 minutes on slide number 3. Well, what was so interesting on slide number 3? Then you can go back, take a look as a salesperson, and then next time you touch base with them, bring that up in the presentation or bring that up in the email to them. So thirdly, this is creating a lot of efficiency in multiple ways. So we're seeing efficiency in that the salesperson is able to find what they're looking for within the first few minutes of searching. In my interviews, it turned out that when a salesperson doesn't find what they're looking for in the first 5 to 10 minutes of searching, they're then going to a Slack channel, or they're going to Slack an individual person. And that creates an inefficiency because it's not just wasting the salesperson's time, but it's also wasting the other person's time who's on Slack trying to, can you send me this piece of content, or can you tell me where to find it? That's a waste of time. The other thing is, I really hate this saying, but I say it all the time: you don't know what you don't know. So, when you're searching for something in a Google Drive or in the handbook, you might be searching for RFP. Let's just use that as an example, or Goldman Sachs, or whatever it is. I think Goldman Sachs is a good example here, right? We all know that case study. But I might not know what other case studies exist out there. So a system like this would provide AI to serve up additional content on a side panel saying that, hey, you like the Goldman Sachs case study and you searched for it, but guess what other case studies are out there that might be relevant to you? So it's surfacing content that might not necessarily be top of mind for you as a salesperson. So now on the marketing side, what's fantastic about this is that there's a strong integration between Salesforce and Clary. So what you'll see here is you'll be able to understand what content is influencing what deal. So you'll be able to see closed won deals, closed lost deals, and what revenue was either a result of sending out this particular piece of content. An association, a correlation, not necessarily, a causation. But what money did we get from this content that we're sending out versus what money is being left on the table, right? And this benefits marketing greatly because you're able to see, where is your marketing spend going? How efficient is that marketing spend? Are we sending out videos when we should be sending out PDFs? Or are we're sending out links when PDFs are getting more views and downloads and that sort of thing, or more traction rather, I should say. So how are you spending that money and where is it most efficient? So that's kind of the 5-minute, I don't know how long that took, but when I was practicing it took 10 minutes. So that's like the overview. If you want to see the more detailed presentation, please take a look. There's a lot of good info in there. And so thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome job. Awesome job. Thank you. So that was really a lot right there, because there's a lot of moving parts to your project. With all those things, what do you think is the easiest thing for us for GitLab to quickly implement? Like what's the lowest hanging fruit? And then what is the longer term thing that we're really going to have to work on to get that up and running?
That feels like a trick question. I feel like all of it's kind of hard. I'd say the lowest hanging fruit is probably kind of what's happening right now. I don't know if everyone here is aware, but there's a little bit of a sales handbook refactor going on, and that I think is kind of bringing everything, kind of putting a homepage, I guess, to the sales handbook. So bringing everything into one place. So I think that's the lowest hanging fruit, what we're kind of iterating on right now. I think the harder part is maybe acquiring a system like this and then being able to bring everything into one place while still retaining transparency, but also, you know, being able to see the analytics and the metrics behind all of this content, I think would be really important, but also hard to do.
Right, right. So how long do you envision it is, assuming we get the green light from, say, Sid or Todd, right? How long is it? How long would it take to do this from start to finish?
Are you asking this as a salesperson, Cherie?
Yeah, partially. Hey, look, if it can help me with my job, look, let's do this yesterday, right?
I anticipate this taking a while. I think when Danielle and I started this project, my boss David was also involved, and they kind of told me, don't be sad if this doesn't work out. But I think, and I think they were right, this is a really heavy lift, but at the same time, I do think that there is an opportunity within a couple of quarters to get something like this done. I even think within a quarter you could stand something like this up. I think culturally it might take a little bit longer than that.
Nice. Okay, thank you. And Danielle, I'm not letting you off the hook. As a mentor, what did you get out of this project, or what did Tanuja bring to light that you maybe hadn't seen before?
Yeah, so firstly, I was fairly new to marketing when I started working with her. So it gave me a lot of visibility into kind of what's happening on the sales side, and also where our two departments, like where they touch and maybe where they could be working better together. So I learned a lot just about my role and how I could be helping more. So that was awesome. And then we also just talked a lot about, how to get things done at GitLab. So many different people needing and wanting so many different things, and just kind of how to finesse, like what conversations to have and with who and what order to get buy-in for something like this that touches so many people. So I really learned a lot from Tanuja because I didn't even know who a lot of these players were. So it was kind of the best onboarding that you could hope for in terms of really thinking more about, okay, how do we be a great partner to sales? So it's really great. And we also had fun talking, I think, during the pandemic. It was nice just to have somebody completely outside of my team that I could just jam with. And she was actually living in Colorado till pretty recently. So yeah, it was just kind of nice to also just connect with someone else where we don't have the same things we worry about every day. So that was also a really great part.
To Danielle's credit, I had no idea she was totally new in marketing. She did such a good job of mentoring me. And I'd like to also call out, in my main presentation, there is an epic that she kind of templated out. She shared that with me, and I used it to build an epic for this project. And I call it the epic because it's awesome. So
nice. Thank you, guys.
Congratulations, Tanuja and Danielle. I just wanted to shout out also that you're also mentor and mentee in the Women in Sales program. So love how you kind of made use of that and applied it to the MIT as well as the Women in Sales. So congratulations to both of you.
Thanks, Lorna.
Yeah, awesome
Thanks,
job.
Lorna.
Awesome job. Congrats. And next, we have the sales category. The nominees are: first project, increasing newly hired sales performance and reducing their churn by Rashad and Mike Pyle. Second, a cross-functional shadow program for leadership development between Mike and AJ. Third, Latin American growth and expansion plan by David and Roma. And lastly, creating a GitLab referral program by Anthony and Mark Rogie. And the winners are creating a customer referral program by Anthony and Mark Rogie.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it. I'm just gonna share my screen real quick. 1 second. Mark, did you have any words you wanted to share before I get started?
No, you can jump right in, but I think the program overall is run super well. So Sharif, good job in setting, and there's multiple people set this up, but I just want to say good job in executing this.
Definitely, definitely. So, so as Sharif said, so our project was creating a GitLab customer referral program. And our sort of, the big sort of context for this project was, what is important at the company right now? What is our strategic goals? Obviously, one key one from a sales perspective or a company-wide perspective is 1 billion AR by 2024. And then obviously, as we work up to IPO, how can we have a successful, I guess, sort of planning or sort of preparation for that? But then also after IPO, how do we continue that sort of that sort of sustained growth and good performance? So the question really was, how do we leverage our strengths to grow revenue and reach these goals? So I think one thing we can all agree on this call is that people love GitLab. And here are just a few numbers. We've seen a couple of these in the presentations, but the one that really for me really stood out for me was recently, obviously with remote culture and sort of the impressions that we had on the content that we put out there, incredible numbers. And I think any company would be proud to sort of have these numbers to sort of boast about. I think what this sort of tells us is that advocacy is our superpower. Every company has something that works for them. For GitLab, people love the product and they'll go to great lengths to sort of get it. However, the problem we still have at this moment is that we're still leaving money on the table. And there's two stories I want to give, two personal stories that happened actually just this year. So on the left here, you have Craig. This was at the launch of the GitLab London meetup. And Craig he's a user of GitLab. He works for a company that uses GitLab and also works at sort of consults other companies. And I spoke with him at the end. He started telling me a story of how GitLab had changed his life. And when he said that, initially I thought, this is a bit extreme. GitLab changed your personal life. I'm really intrigued as to what he meant by this. But as he began to share the story, I actually understood what he meant. He works on projects over the weekend, and prior to using GitLab, it was very difficult for him to sort of have that, I guess, high productivity on his actual project on the weekend, where he would obviously do stuff that he loves. And he said after using GitLab, he's become such a big advocate of it, not just at his company, but also with companies that he consults. In the middle, you have Roxor. This is now a customer of ours, a gaming company based in London. And when I first had the sort of initial call with them, one of the things that came out of the IQM was just that they had previously already had a customer of theirs give a demo to them of GitLab. And they were so impressed by it that they kind of moved forward and reached out to us, and that's how the process got started. And so looking at this, really interested in how many times has this happened in sales, and how often does it happen? How can we encourage it? And how can we reward this behavior? So we have a few, if you like, advocacy programs already that exist. We have GitLab Heroes, which is about sort of rewarding people who contribute to the community. We have case studies, which is about sharing stories of customers and building awareness. We have the Champions program. So this is new. This is about rewarding individual champions, I guess in some sense like Craig, who will advocate for GitLab at different companies that they go to. But we still don't have a program for customers who want to refer other customers or other teams to GitLab. And this was the basis of this project. So the solution, effectively, what we're coining it is a GitLab Circles. It's a loyalty program that allows customers to turn points into rewards. So whenever a customer refers a team or another company to GitLab, they can get points and get rewards that they can redeem. So just some observations. Again, number one, this is already happening at the moment across enterprise, across commercial. So this GitLab Circles project or program is hoping to put some structure around it. Referral programs help with growth. And this is sort of tested and proven across different sort of, I would say, sales and marketing organizations. What it also does is it allows or could potentially help us to improve our profitability. And the thinking behind this was we are potentially receiving more qualified opportunities via customers, but we're not actually spending more on marketing to get them. So being able to improve that bottom line profitability and also reduce our customer acquisition cost to actually get those customers through the door. So how would it actually work? So I guess the initial overview of the journey would be that a customer would register their referral, much like the partner system works right now. And once they've referred it and entered in specific information that we would collect, it will be routed to the correct sales individual. And once that opportunity or referral has been qualified by the salesperson, then it's actually allocated or confirmed as a successful referral for that company. And the points are allocated them on a system, and those points are available for them to redeem at a point that they would like to. So there are two sort of, the way we envisage it is two forms of this referral GitLab Circles program. So the first is new business, external referrals. And what's great about this is, again, is that it allows us to potentially reach opportunities that are initially out of our scope. So, you know, as we would all imagine, companies and people and networks speak amongst themselves, which maybe might not be on our radar. This allows us to capture those conversations and opportunities that we don't yet know about. The other sort of referral is internal referral. So, you know, I think UBS is a good example, a real example recently, but, you know, the way this would work is that if we were to sign Coca-Cola in the UK, they could refer Coca-Cola in the US or Asia, etc. And so basically what's great about sort of internal referrals, it actually helps us to reach our total addressable market, or actually spread GitLab across the whole company, or have a way to expand across the whole company, as opposed to just going in with new external marketing campaigns. So in order, I guess, for it to work, you know, and also to distinguish it from the other sort of programs that we have, the rewards actually need to make business sense. So the thinking behind this was, if a company or someone at a company wants to, you know, refer a new team to GitLab, the rewards they get need to go beyond the individual. They need to actually be beneficial to the company. So here's just an example of how this, I guess, the framework would work. So if someone was to refer a trial, they would get 50 points. If they were to make an internal referral, 100 points, external 150. And then once it's actually qualified, then they can get extra points. And of course, there'll be some eligibility criteria. So, you know, to ensure we are getting sort of high quality referrals from customers, the individuals within that referred team or company would need to meet one of our personas, and they would need to have sort of influence or buying decision or some sort of authority in terms of making that decision. And yeah, so this is was just some additional thinking as to, you know, maybe there could be some scope to actually extend the point system to other advocacy programs. So this was kind of taken more of an umbrella perspective. You know, you start with GitLab Circles, but also, you know, whether it's someone who receives swag or someone who's spoken at an event, they could also individually maybe collect points as you would with an airline, for example. So here's just an example of some rewards, starting from, I guess, the top, which will be sort of the, you know, starting point, and going down into more exciting rewards, if you like. So product discounts, obviously in line with the sales discount matrix that we have right now, swag, and going right up to things like executive briefing calls. So people customers who are really, you know, engaged in, you know, helping expand GitLab across their company, across the market, can actually maybe jump on, maybe it's a monthly or quarterly call with the exec team, and kind of share and kind of get that sort of those insights that might help them as a business kind of move forward. So yeah, just, I guess, some use cases here quickly. In commercial, oftentimes we might have, you know, for example, a company that has 200 developers, but they want to start with, you know, 50 people, and they ask for a discount. You know, is there a discount we can get? We can obviously give them a discount, which is what we do now, but we could also point them to the GitLab Circles program and say, if, you know, here's our program, You can get discounts on products. You can get points. And you can do that by, introducing us to maybe other people in the team or other sort of divisions in the team that might be useful. And the HSBC one is very similar to the Coca-Cola example, just sort of global expansion and how that might be helpful for sort of growing and sort of reaching the whole company, the whole account. And then lastly here, sort of account-based marketing. So again, everyone in sales across all segments has effectively some strategic companies, and looking at how we might use this as a way to expand sort of our footprint within those companies might be quite useful. And then just rounding up here.
We have to move quickly here. I got to give you just 1 more minute.
1 minute, yeah, sure. So just the last slide here, just sort of impact on revenue and how this might work. So we took number of customers we have in each segment, and if each person was to refer one person or one company, this is how much will be sort of in the pipeline for qualified sales opportunities. And based on our current close rate, this is how much we would potentially close. So that's it.
And so Anthony, if I could just add one other thing. So when we started this, we had the conversation like everybody, I assume, probably did. Oh crap, what should the project actually be? And I had a couple of ideas. He had a couple of ideas. He kind of went down the path with one of them a little bit, and in true tech fashion, did a full-on pivot to this. Anthony came up with this. The circle's name, I think, is fantastic. I think you did an awesome job on this. This was all Anthony, and really, really good job. I think this is a really cool idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome project. Awesome project. In fact, Mark, you just answered one of the questions I was going to ask. So for the sake of time, Anthony, I'm only going to ask one question. Was there anything in particular which sort of sparked the idea for you to come up with this? Because you said other people are doing this already. Was it another SaaS tech company that you saw doing this, or was it just basically like a gym membership sort of idea that clicked for you?
I think it was the personal story of the customer that I had, Roxor Gaming. I thought it was quite powerful that a company would give them a demo about GitLab. They didn't do it for any particular reason, but I thought, yeah, this definitely seems to be already happening. Speaking to Mark and understanding sort of some nuances behind sort of the UBS deal and ways that we can maybe help, I guess, not so much replicate it, but sort of, create a structure and a system where this could happen again. So that was basically the impetus behind it.
Awesome job, man. Great project. Thank you. Thank you. And for the final awards, we have diversity, inclusion, and belonging. There are 4 nominees. The first being Morgan and Candace with how to increase African-American and brown employees within GitLab within 18 months. Next, we have Andre and Eric Johnson, who actually did 2 projects. The first being improving the detection of inclusive candidates in the interview process was their first project. Their second one is being to improve the use of misused terms here at GitLab. And then the last nominee is Erica and David Duncan to increase the percentage of diversity hires at GitLab through a rotational internship program. And the winner is Erica and David. Congratulations. So Erica, here we go. All right, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I've got a little construction going on here, so forgive any noise that we may have, but I'm gonna go through this quickly because we are running out of time. Share my screen here. There we go. Okay, so essentially our project was to do a ongoing marketing, well, it started out as a marketing, but turned into a rotational program for folks throughout the organization. And this would be targeting essentially students who fall under kind of diversity, minority college students. And essentially they would be coming in to do a 10 to 12 week summer internship program with GitLab. And they would come in, if they do well, they would be invited back the next year. And essentially we would start with them the summer after their freshman year, and then they would continue on coming back each summer if everything works out well. and they would be in marketing, engineering, sales, finance. The purpose and hope of this goal is to essentially grow a diverse talent, pool for GitLab to kind of look at as these folks graduate. Also, give us more visibility with universities and recognition and understanding of what, diversity and inclusion and belonging means for us. Also providing these minority college students an opportunity to get entrenched with an organization like GitLab, make also contacts, and even if they don't come into GitLab, they have references and relationships and that sort of thing. So I'm trying to go through this quickly. So what we ended up doing is, I started out with Dunk, obviously. He had a lot of experience of these sort of mentorship programs at previous organizations and companies that he worked with. So we went through the pros and cons, went through the idea, and then decided we should start talking to stakeholders that would be involved in making this program come to reality. So we spoke to folks, started with marketing. We started with Jessica Mitchell in HR. We spoke with finance about trying to get this funded, how it would be funded, would it count as headcount, that sort of thing, because we would want to give stipends, obviously, to these interns and provide them with resources that they need to do the internship program. We spoke to Todd, who kind of acted as an exec sponsor of this program, if you will, and saying that, he would get behind it, suggested other folks that we could talk to as well, and talk to us about some challenges that were in the proposal that we might want to, consider as we move forward with others. And then we moved on and spoke to Ryan O'Neill in sales, Chris Lefowitz in engineering, and Evan in revenue marketing. And they were all on board and really enjoyed the idea, and also provided some insight as well as to ways they could get behind and support this sort of program within their teams and departments within the organization. Yeah, wow. So trying to go fast. Okay, so at the end of the day, what we would want to be doing is providing this opportunity for these students. You can go through the rest of the deck, but I think at the end of the day, this program, which I want to thank Dunk for being such a great mentor with and helping, hone out and freshen out how we could best do this idea. But I think this could help us bring in more minority team members and also help minority students at the same time. So there we go.
Awesome project. Awesome project, Duncan, Erica. Thank you so much. Now, with creating, I don't know, maybe you guys might have missed this because Erica had to go quickly. So the idea is a multi-year rotational internship program. So what do you see as sort of the hardest thing to do about getting someone, a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, to want to commit to GitLab for multiple summers, 2-3 years?
Well, I think some of these programs really are going to attract those students that are very dedicated and interested and motivated, because those are the type of folks that want to make that commitment. We would also speak to the universities about some of their, shining students and try to get those folks interested in applying for the program.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in terms of the hardest, what do we as GitLab need to do in order to ensure that we build those bridges with those schools? What do you think is the first step we need to do?
Well, I think once we flesh out this idea, really explaining to the universities, having engaging conversations with them and really explaining to them what our culture is here and how we want to be able to reach out to diverse candidates and, let them know there are good places to work and all of that as a way we can do that and engage.
Awesome.
That interest.
Awesome project. Thank you. And thank you guys very much. Thank you, Dunk. Thank you, Erica. Awesome project. And to quickly note, this is the one category where there was a split between the People's Choice Awards winners and the Working Group Awards winners. So please note that the People's Choice Award winner was Morgan. So for all of you who did not take a look at her project, please go take a look at it. It includes film and video and is very entertaining and interactive. Okay. Now, quickly, because I know I have taken up 1 more minute of your time. Quickly, prizes and awards. So prizes will be given to all working group winners. All mentees will receive a $150 Amazon gift card. All winning mentors will receive a $50 Amazon gift card. All of those who submitted projects to the MIT mentoring group will have the opportunity to select shirts and swag from GitLab. What I'm going to do is send you guys a pin. I'm going to send it to you via email. I'm going to send you a link. You can literally just go in and click the particular swag and shirt of your liking. You have about 6 options to do so. So you'll see that come from me shortly. Epics and issues. Darva, do you want to take this on?
Yes, so we created an epic that we like all of you all to attach your wonderful productive issues to so that we can track where you guys are on your projects now, or where you all are on your projects now, and track where you all will be going next. And I will send that link out to you all in the Slack channel.
Yes, what we want you all to be able to do at the end of the day is say, I did this and this for GitLab. I created this moving forward, so that everyone has an idea of who actually should get the credit for this. And lastly, just in terms of closing, I want to thank all of you, all of the, there's certain people who I need to thank. Obviously, my partner in crime, Darva, awesome. My co-chair, Erica, awesome. Everybody in the working group, my mentor, Ryan O'Neill, all of the MIT mentors, thank you for your time. It's greatly appreciated. But most important are the MIT mentees. Thank you for being able to take time out of your day and be willing to take on a completely new project. I look forward to hearing your feedback as to how we can iterate this moving forward. We're technically 2 minutes over, but are there any questions?
I just wanted to throw in a quick thank you. Sharif, thank you so much for everything you've done. I'm coordinating this program, the regular meetings that were set up with all the mentees and the mentors. This was definitely a labor of love for both of us. And I look forward to seeing this happen year after year, and maybe 1 year we can end it and contribute, maybe, just maybe. And I'd love to see this duplicated throughout the company. So this should be an example. Women in Sales has a mentoring program. There's a Plato HQ mentoring program. I would love to see more mentoring at GitLab so we can maybe learn from this and spread it and multiply it. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Oh, and special shout out, Todd Barr. Thank you for the money for paying for all the swag. You're greatly appreciated, sir. And I think that about covers it. Any questions, feel free to reach out to Darva and myself. And thank you all for everything it is that you've done.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.